Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. This weekend, many families across Canada will be gathering for Thanksgiving dinner. But for some, it will be a struggle to put food on that table. Food banks in the GTA say they're trying to keep up, but are finding it difficult given the high demand. As Dale Manuktuk reports, they are asking those who are able to give so that everyone can have a happy Thanksgiving this year.
The North York Harvest Food Bank is running low on some of their top essential items, ones that are nutrient dense and things that are almost universal that many cultures can use.
Things like canned seafood, canned vegetables, specifically things like tomatoes or beans and lentils. Rice is another one. And one thing that people may not always realize is cooking oil. Cooking oil is really expensive, and it's used in basically anything that you're going to cook.
The food bank serves many partner nonprofit agencies across the GTA and is asking for the community's help.
You know, we're not a government agency. We don't receive government support. We really are based in our community and rely on the support of our community. And if we don't receive that support now, we know we're going to have problems throughout the rest of the year.
The need for donations is system-wide. Food Banks Mississauga is only about 70% of the way to its Thanksgiving donation goal.
Slower stream of donations, I think that North York Harvest was talking about and that we're experiencing, it's reflective of how all our communities are going through tough times. Folks that used to donate to us have, shared anecdotally with us that now they have become food bank visitors themselves.
Food Banks Mississauga is serving 58% more people compared to last year. In Toronto, 1 out of every 10 residents are relying on food banks. Donations aren't as easy to come by as they used to be, partly because food prices are up across the board.
Since March of 2020, when the pandemic started, food prices are on average about 27% more expensive.
That's why food banks prefer monetary donations, which they can make better use of.
For each dollar you give, they can actually buy 5 times more food. Because of the connections that they have, because of the fact that they can actually buy wholesale, they can buy from the source directly. They have lots of partnerships.
The food banks agree they're not the solution to food insecurity, but until wages increase or expenses come down, they'll be there to help. Dale Manuktuk, CBC News, Toronto.
In Mississauga, a 30-year-old man is dead after a workplace accident. Peel police say they were called to the scene near Dundas Street and Wharton Way just before 4 this afternoon. According to paramedics, the man was not in an environment safe enough to perform life-saving measures, as high voltage in the area had to be turned off first. The man was pronounced dead at the scene. The Ministry of Labour has been notified. CBC News has confirmed new details about a string of Ontario murders. A Toronto woman has been charged with 3 killings in 3 days. 2 of the victims seemingly chosen at random. Thomas Dagla brings us what more we know tonight.
Traveling on foot and on public transit from one attack to another, police say Sabrina Kaldar carried out a deadly 3-day rampage. Now, a CBC News investigation is revealing more about an alleged killer whose case has shocked 3 Ontario cities.
These 3 victims were just attacked unprovoked, didn't see anything coming.
It all began in this Toronto basement apartment last week, where Kaldar is accused of killing a 60-year-old woman she knew, then allegedly going on to murder 47-year-old Lance Cunningham in Niagara Falls and 77-year-old Mario Bilic in Hamilton. Both strangers, police say, killed at random.
We are at this point comfortable to release that all 3 victims were stabbed.
Was it all the same weapon?
I can't say.
The daughter of 2 dentists, Kaldar's behavior grew violent as an adult. We obtained court records showing in 2018 she was convicted of break and enter, assault with a weapon, and assaulting an officer. Few acquaintances would agree to speak about Kaldar's past. This former neighbor was just stunned.
She's been charged with 3 counts of murder.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, that's crazy, actually. That's insane to hear.
Police say the alleged killer was staying at this motel here in Burlington between the attacks. They say officers were already here when she returned 5 hours after the 3rd victim was found.
The 30-year-old accused appeared in a Toronto courtroom by video link, rocking back and forth as her lawyer questioned whether she's fit to stand trial.
she'll be evaluated for whether she's fit to stand trial or whether she needs to be processed through our system of mental health.
For now, Kaldar is detained at this women's jail, charged in a rare string of murders. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Hamilton.
We have an update on a suspicious death investigation in Bramton. A man was found dead inside a home yesterday evening. The death deemed suspicious. But as Ali Chiasson reports, while the homicide squad has been called in, it hasn't been ruled a murder yet.
You never know what goes on behind closed doors.
No, you don't. You have no idea.
It's unclear to investigators what exactly happened at 46 Lord Simcoe Drive here in Brampton. All that is known is that a 65-year-old man was found dead inside this home yesterday evening.
Our Homicide Bureau, they have been monitoring the situation since yesterday evening. What I can tell you today is our Homicide Bureau have taken the carriage of this investigation. This is being treated as a suspicious death.
Homicide has taken over the investigation, but they stopped short of calling it a murder. They haven't described the nature of the man's injuries either. They do, however, say they arrested a man on scene yesterday who they've since released.
There is insufficient evidence to hold this individual at this time. We do not have any other suspect information at this time. However, our Homicide Bureau, they are canvassing the area to gather any evidence.
Police wouldn't describe the relationship between the victim and the man they arrested, then let go. But neighbors tell me a man in his 60s and his son lived there. And they have seen police at the house before, but no one could have expected this. How do you feel knowing now what happened across the street?
Not well. It's very scary. It's very scary, very nerve-wracking, and very sad. All rolled into one.
Homicide investigators are searching the home now, looking to piece together how this man died and whether he is the victim of a murder. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Brampton.
In York Region, police are searching for at least 3 suspects after they stole a suitcase filled with cash in a violent daytime robbery captured on video. It happened yesterday at a shopping mall on Yonge Street, just north of Steeles. Greg Ross has the details.
3 masked men captured on this cell phone video smashing their way into a car.
There's no better word to describe it but brazen.
It happened in broad daylight at the Shops on Yonge Mall, just north of Steeles. The thieves used 2 other vehicles to box in the victim. They were able to smash through his driver's side window, open his door, and pull him out of the vehicle. 2 of the masked men beat him up, while the third gets into his car and pulls out what appears to be a suitcase.
So we know it's a black carry-on style luggage. It had a quantity of cash. Now, we don't know the motive for this, whether that was the intention.
Police aren't saying how much money was in the bag or why the victim was carrying a suitcase filled with cash.
So the victim did speak with police at the scene and provided information to us that will help with the investigation.
Moments after taking the bag, the thieves drove out of this parking lot onto Meadowview Avenue just east of Yonge Street. They were driving a white Lexus SUV and a white 4-door Mercedes-Benz.
A Lexus SUV was stolen from Toronto actually earlier that day prior to this incident happening. And the Mercedes license plate is not registered to that Mercedes. So clearly, again, the suspects are doing what they can to avoid being caught.
Because they were wearing masks, police don't have much of a description of the suspects to go on either. Police say in all there were a total of 5 of them, 3 masked men and 2 other men who were driving the vehicles. Police say the victims sustained only minor injuries. Greg Ross, CBC News, Thornhill.
The trial of a Toronto City Councillor accused of sexual assault continued in Cottage Country today. Councillor Michael Thompson is facing 2 counts of sexual assault stemming from a Canada Day weekend gathering in Muskoka back in 2022. Arlene Harrison has the details and a warning that some may find the details disturbing.
Scarborough City Councillor Michael Thompson had the 2nd day of his judge-alone trial in Bracebridge today. The trial continued with the cross-examination of a witness whose testimony began Monday. The woman was 22 at the time of the alleged assaults and drove up to the cottage with Thompson for what she thought would be a networking weekend. She told police that both of the complainants in the case told her about the alleged assaults. The first allegation surrounds what the witness calls a massage, while the defense says Thompson was applying sunscreen to a woman. The witness told police the woman said the counselor penetrated her with his fingers during the massage. On Monday, the Crown said the second allegation comes from a woman who says Thompson encouraged her to drink heavily. It's alleged Thompson woke her up in the middle of the night and forced himself on her. The witness said the woman told her that she gave Thompson oral sex without wanting to do it. The defense asked if the woman had told the witness, quote, she did not know if he would have thought that she wanted it, end quote. The witness agreed that may have been said in conversation. Earlier in the day, Thompson's lawyer grilled the witness over her communication with Tracy, an older woman who was also at the cottage that weekend. The witness testified that she believed Tracy had been trying to groom her, something she says she only realized in reflection. This was a point of contention between her and the defense. At one point, the defense tried to argue that the witness decided Tracy was trying to groom her as soon as she left the cottage, which was in the car with the two complainants. The defense asked if the trio had discussed the alleged grooming. How that line of questioning will factor into Thompson's final argument is unclear. The trial continues tomorrow. Lane Harrison, CBC News, Bracebridge.
Toronto City Council is pushing through a second day of its packed October session. Fixing the vacant home tax and the delayed Eglinton Crosstown were both up for debate. We have Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords here to break it all down for us. And Sean, the vacant home tax rollout, a total fiasco last spring. You mentioned yesterday a lot could be changing with that tax. What is Council doing to address those earlier problems?
So Council has just passed a rebuilt program. So what it'll see is an expansion really of communication with people in the city, informing them of the process, how to declare their home occupied or vacant if it is vacant, and really trying to smooth out a lot of the problems that caused that issue that affected 150,000 people who were mistakenly billed for the vacant home tax. So I spoke with Councillor Gord Perks earlier in the day, and he was defending this tax. Let's hear from him.
We have found through the first couple of years of doing the vacant home tax that there's something like 10,000 vacant homes in the city of Toronto, which is around the same number of people who are homeless in the city of Toronto. Absolutely, we should continue with this. We need to make it better, clearer, and easier to use, but it's a good piece of public policy.
So, Sean, we have councillors like Gord Perks defending this tax. We also know that there are some councillors who just don't like this tax. What are they saying?
So there was a push, Kelda, at Council, as probably expected, to kill and pause the tax, both kind of in tandem. Both of those motions failed by a wide margin, I should say. And those councillors were concerned about a variety of issues, the efficacy of the tax. I don't think it actually does what it is pledged to do, which is fight the housing crisis. And they're saying it's a cash grab, in effect. So I spoke with Councillor Stephen Holliday about that. He's a longtime opponent of that tax. Let's hear from him.
I continue to hear from residents in the community I live in, of course, all over the city that despise the vacant home tax. It's just one of those things where the government requires you to tell them that you actually lived in your own home. It's a pain, a process that has caused a lot of grief in previous years, and I wish the city government would just do away with it.
Another topic up for debate today, Eglinton Crosstown. A pair of city councillors are calling for the province to hold a public inquiry over the Eglinton Crosstown. Where does that request stand at the moment?
So another bit of news to report here. City Council approved this request by a pretty wide margin again, which is actually kind of a surprise because 2 years ago, this was a very contentious debate. Councillor Josh Matlow and Deputy Mayor Mike Cole, they were behind this motion. They say that 2 years ago, then Mayor John Tory watered down their request. They wanted a public inquiry. He wanted a third-party review. They now have that request in. Now, it is symbolic, this request for a public inquiry. The city can't compel the province to do this, but Josh Matlow told me earlier in the day that he thinks it's just an important gesture that people know that, residents of the city, that they're pushing for them and for answers on the much-delayed project here on the Eglinton Crosstown.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for breaking that all down for us. Our Municipal Affairs reporter, Sean Jeffords. Well, if you are among the frustrated commuters who have found themselves stuck in traffic due to the construction on the Gardiner, some good news for you. Mayor Olivia Chow says repairs are months ahead of schedule. Tyler Cheese has the details.
Anyone who's driven this stretch of the Gardiner lately knows just how bad the congestion can get. It's been down to just 2 lanes in both directions since March. That's due to the ongoing rehabilitation work between Duffin Street and Strawn Avenue, but fortunately, the mayor made a promising announcement last night.
The provincial support, working with the City of Toronto, and all the workers behind us here, and those that are not behind us, 100 people in total, around the clock. This project, as of now, is 4 months ahead of schedule. That is worthy of celebration.
The Gardiner work began in the spring and was originally set to be finished by April 2027, but this summer, the province announced it would give the city $73 million so construction crews could work 24/7, moving the projected completion date up to April 2026. This project is the second phase of a long-term plan to fix up the 60-year-old highway. The 700-meter stretch between Dufferin and Strawn is being demolished and rebuilt. That's a $300 million undertaking. Data released in June shows rush hour travel times on the expressway have increased by as much as 250% due to the work. So with this new timeline, drivers can look forward to that not being a problem for quite so long. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
And Mayor Chow is trying to get the province to hit the brakes on legislating on bike lanes. This as the clock ticks towards the legislature coming back and rules on bike lanes expected to be included in a new transportation bill. Queen's Park reporter Lorena Redekop has the latest.
This report. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow weighed in on Doug Ford's government, potentially saying no to bike lanes if they take out a lane of traffic.
It's like using a big hammer to go after a fly.
CBC News first reported 3 weeks ago on internal briefing documents we obtained, showing the province is looking at prohibiting those bike lanes as part of a pro-driver package. The lane that's the most controversial, the section of Toronto's Bloor Street in Etobicoke, near where Premier Doug Ford lives. He's made no secret how he feels.
You might see 4 or 5 bikes as you see traffic lined up all the way down the road for kilometers and kilometers.
In that spot, there's 1 lane of vehicle traffic in each direction, parking, then the bike lane.
I've asked the Premier to give me some time to work on it, and I'm working on it flat out. At least I could show him that I could help mediate and find a solution that works for everyone.
There are now dueling petitions on the issue. More than 13,000 people signing on to one, raising concerns. Started almost a year ago. Around half that for a petition supporting bike lanes, starting after our first story came out. That one by Cycle Toronto. It points out 6 cyclists in the city have been killed this year.
It's not about telling people you can't drive or you have to take transit. It's really just creating more options. And, for the people to use those options, it needs to be safe.
I've seen around a dozen people ride by using the bike lane. That's been over the span of around an hour, starting at noon. There is certainly a lot of anger, though. I've been hearing it from people walking by and also in vehicles.
The bike lobby. Come on, crazy.
I'm okay with bike lanes. I love to have bike lanes, but not on the main street.
The local councillor for the area is set to hold a town hall meeting on the issue next week. The following week, the legislature returns. It's unclear exactly when the new transportation bill will be tabled, but the internal briefing documents classify the proposal on prohibiting some bike lanes at a risk level of high. Lorena Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette, yeah, a lot of people in Florida picking up the pieces today after Milton. Lots of destruction, of course, but maybe a bit of good news. The storm surge not nearly as bad as was feared in places like Tampa.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. It's because of it just, making that turn there at the end. So it stayed just south, and that really saved that Tampa Bay area and the more than 3 million people that live there. Of course, there were many problems, though, elsewhere, and where it did make that landfall. Remnants of the storm well off now towards the east. It came on 8:30 last evening as a Category 3. It maintained hurricane strength, becoming a Category 1, but hurricane strength right across the province, becoming post-tropical or across the state, becoming post-tropical as it kicks out and continues on to the east. It should pass just south of Bermuda, but it will be weaker. Those are colder waters, and so perhaps not posing as much of a problem there. Some of those upper winds that not only cause some of the shear near the end, but also steering it away from the eastern seaboard. Big ridge you're seeing here as well over top of the Great Lakes. That's going to allow some warmer air to move in and get us out of this west to northwesterly flow, which has kept the temperatures a little bit cooler. I mean, they're close to seasonal, but in most cases here, our daytime highs, we're off by a couple of degrees, and I do mean, yes, on the chillier side. And speaking of chilly, frost advisories, again, tonight, there are some by the nation's capital, but also closer to the GTA between basically southwestern Ontario and the GTA through Brantford, Hamilton, London, Norfolk County. Elsewhere, though, some patchy frost is still possible, even towards the city, anywhere a little bit away from the lake. So you may want to still kind of protect some of that tender vegetation if you still can. Looking ahead, a really nice day on Friday. We'll be in the warm sector of a system approaching. The winds turn to the southwest. It's going to push our temperatures way above seasonal for tomorrow. Kind of a one-day only thing, because then the cold front goes through Friday night. Showers more likely in eastern Ontario, but clouds and some showers possible, lighter in nature. We clear back out for Saturday. It's just that it'll be a cooler day. And then as the day wears on, yeah, the next system will be approaching. So later in the day, we get into some cloud cover again. Later in the day, a risk of showers moves into southwestern Ontario. And I know it's a holiday weekend, and I've got to pull that shower activity basically into our Sunday, even potentially on Monday. Overnight tonight, 4 degrees. There it is, 21 for the high tomorrow, mid-20s for Windsor tomorrow. Saturday, 15, still a nice-looking day. With the wet weather comes the cool down, though, for Sunday, Monday.
Friday, though, looking really good.
Amazing.
Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Before we go, a major geomagnetic storm is underway, and it's powerful enough to create intense northern light shows across Canada. Our videographer Mirdad captured this view of the lights in Bracebridge tonight. The storm is expected to continue into tomorrow. Depending on where you are, maybe you'll get the chance to catch the spectacular light show. Have a great night, everyone.